In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build this fire table with seating for 6 to add another element to your outdoor space. Well, this is a project I've been dying to do for a very long time. As you can see, this table's seen better days. We have this beautiful bench seat here on the deck. We're going to be starting a fire table. Now, we've already kind of did some brainstorming how we're going to do this project. I'm going to go through it step by step. Everything will be time-stamped below. Some of our materials came today. I'm going to open them up and unbox them. It's really important to do that. Make sure there's no damage. If there is, it's going right back to Amazon. Again, all this is ordered on Amazon except for the tile. Now this fire table is going to have a rectangular fire in the middle, a propane storage below, and we've chosen this. It's porcelain tile. You see how well it holds up outside. We live in the northeast, and we get winter on a regular basis. I'm just hoping that these tiles and the materials we use to build this will stand the test of time, but time will tell. The smooth finish, I think it's going to look really great with the fire coming out of the center of the table and reflecting off the high gloss finish of this tile. The tile wasn't super expensive. It was about $2 a square foot, which is not bad, especially if you're making a table. You don't need that much tile. It's not like you're tiling your entire floor with it. So let's get started. This is supposed to be our burner. Get that out of here. All right. As far as the fire table goes, we ordered the stainless steel rectangular shaped fire unit. Got the burner and all the it's got the hoses, the burners, everything you need for your table. We also ordered a cover, and we ordered a glass shield because the wind comes across here pretty good, and I just think putting glass around it will help contain the fire and really set it off and make it look high-end. Because that's what we're going for here. We're going for a high-end looking table. I priced some of them, and they range anywhere from like $1,500 to $3,000 to $6,000. You can get crazy, and sky's the limit when it comes to price. We want to make a table that looks $3,000 and only costs $500 or so. That's our price range right now with the glass, the burner kit, and the cover. It was about $270, $275, something like that. Again, I'll have everything below. It's like the honeymoon phase before it gets started and gets a little ugly, and the head scratching starts. Okay, so you have your regulator, and the gas mixture. It comes with Teflon tape. It looks like it's got everything you need. This one comes with an igniter as well. It takes a AA battery. Comes with this nice panel to use on the outside of the the base part to make it look finished. And then here's our burner. I'm not going to take this all out because I'm going to go throw it back in the house until everything comes, and then we can start the project. But now the design for this is all in my head at the moment. I've watched various YouTube videos, but no one's quite made a table like we're going to do here. Okay, so let's check our glass panels. Yeah, it has 4 feet, and it just rests over your firebox. Okay, so we did some shopping. We have our lumber here. This table is going to consist of 7 2x4s and 2 4x4s. You could probably get away with 1 4x4 if you want to shorten your table a little bit, but this table is going to be dining height so that we can fit it around our bench. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and cut all our lumber. I'll probably get a little bit of this on video, maybe not. It's kind of boring, but I'm just going to cut it exactly to the cutting list that's in the PDF that you can download for free if you just click on the link. And so we're going to cut all of our wood. And then we're going to go through, on the 2x4s, we're going to put our pocket holes. That's how we're going to join everything together. This table build is a little different than everyone else. Usually they put a concrete countertop on with the fire table. With this build, we're going to build a wooden frame, and then we're going to put cement board around it and then tile the top. So that's what's up here, and we'll just see how this comes out. Everything is a theory until it's proven, so let's get started. Okay, we've got everything cut. I went through and put my pocket holes in all the pieces that need pocket holes. One thing you need to pay attention to, especially if you get using pressure treated wood. Getting it from one of those big box stores, if you know who I'm talking about. Rhymes with Schmo Schmeepo. The width of the boards is wider than 3.5 inches, which was what I figured on for all my plans. Just measure your boards before you start, and that'll tell you if you have to make any adjustments as you're cutting the wood. I have 1/2 inch drywall that I had some scrap pieces laying around, and I'm going to use that to offset my my reveal, because I want a 1/2 inch reveal all the way around from my stringer boards to the legs. So we're gonna get this thing assembled. Tabletop is all done and set. I left a 1/4 inch extra space for our fire drop in. It's 24 by 8, but I made it 24 1/4 by 8 1/4. So this thing, it's gonna be a monster, but I think it's gonna be awesome when we're done here. Okay, now you got a visual. We'll go back inside of this thing and work on these panels. We've got the top done. We've got the bottom almost done. So what I'm gonna do now is flip the bottom over, and in the blueprints it shows, or in the cut list, it shows to rip the remaining 2x4 in half, and that's what I've done here. In the materials section, it calls for furring strips. I didn't buy furring strips, so I used this instead just because I wanted to use something that was laying around. It's not pressure treated, but it's going to be inside the cabinet, so we shouldn't have an issue with weather or anything like that, especially with the top being tile. No water should get in there. I already took a propane tank just to double check and make sure it fits. It's always a good idea. Fits right in there perfectly. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip this over, clamp on the sides, and use 4, I think they're 1.75" maybe, deck screws, and attach those. And then we'll flip it back over and put this in for the floor of the cabinet, and then we'll start getting our pieces of steel ready. Now remember, when you're putting the bottom panels on, it's okay to leave gaps. It's a good thing actually, because if you ever had a propane leak, that way it can leak out. They said think of propane as like water. So if you do have a leak, it's heavier than the air, so it'll sink to the bottom, if that's why. Okay, so now I'm going to be cutting up the corrugated metal roofing. I'm going to be using an angle grinder. Make sure you have the proper eye and ear protection on when you do this job. Okay, we got the steel cut, dry fitted in there. So now I'm going to use 1.25" blue coated screws. The same stuff we're using for the pocket holes. Just because they got a nice flat head on them, it's going to hold that steel in real good. And we're just going to go around, put maybe 4 screws on each side, upper and lower, all 3 sides. The 4th side we're going to leave open. I still got to figure that out yet. When you're messing with this steel, it gets real sharp, so you might want to wear some gloves. Okay, back to the drawing board. I got to get a drill, and we're going to pre-drill some holes so we can drill through this roofing. These are the screws I was talking about, a little closer look. See how they got a flat head? You got to pre-drill for the roofing, because it's kind of hard to do it unless you have some self-tapping screws that might work okay. This end is left open for the propane tank. I have a piece of roofing that I cut. There's our top. Okay, so I may have gotten ahead of myself here. Sometimes doing a project you get a little excited and want to get it done. So I'm going to take the top off. I'm going to remove these metal panels, and we're going to sand the base and attempt to stain it. I don't know, we'll see how it takes the stain, but I don't want to have to come back and stain this with the tabletop over top of my head. That'd be a pain in the butt. So okay, so we took some 120 grit sandpaper on a random orbital sander and went through and sanded the whole thing. Now, just like anything else, the devil's in the details, as they say. So as you can see, here's up close. You know, I went through and I rounded over all these sharp corners and got rid of all the stamps and everything. The wood still feels kind of wet. We're going to be staining it with, I have this. It's semi-transparent wood stain, so we'll see how well it absorbs into the wood. If your wood's too wet, it's not going to absorb. Again, I use pressure treated because it's going to be outside. But we'll see what kind of coverage we can get. And I'm not too concerned about the bottom there, but we're just going to go over the whole thing and maybe put a few coats on, and hopefully we can get it dark enough. Okay, so while we're waiting for the stain to dry, I figured out I try and figure out this opening solution. One of the cutoffs from earlier, I cut it at 16 inches, and we're just going to put it right back here, okay? And I'm going to attach it with some screws to these 4x4s. Before I do that, you'd use your the same wood used for the bottom. You're going to have some extra pieces, so just cut one at 13 inches, and then we're going to attach this to this. We're going to, you know, hold it right where it has to be. I want this flush on the bottom here, and put a couple screws in to hold it, and then we're going to put a handle on our piece of metal. So we're going to lift it up into this opening and be able to pull it out, and that's how we're going to keep that in place. All right, so I'm just going to use some 3.5-inch deck screws here. That's also helped with the reinforcement of the table. All right, so I cut another slat at 13 inches. So in order to get that in the right spot. Now these, when you cut these pieces of metal, they get some sharp burrs on them, so you're going to want to take some sandpaper and just knock those off. Or a file. Files work pretty good too. I had my handle attached. The way I did it was you just get a piece of wood, drill some holes, kind of measure out where you want it to fall on the, you can use a knob if you'd like, or any pull. I had these pulls laying around. It actually adds some stability to this piece of metal just by adding that big chunk of wood. See, this is how it works. You can go up like this, come down, and that's it. So you can see it gives it a nice finished look. You got a handle on there, get your propane in and out. So there's that. I'm gonna take that off, and we're gonna add one more coat of stain, and then we'll reattach all of our metal pieces. All right, so we have a little bit of a decision to make here. This is the control panel that my particular burner kit came with. You can see I gotta get this square piece. That's where your gas line kind of sits and rides, and that's your control knob. So I'm gonna put a hole in the steel the size of that, and one also for this, and that's for your ignition. Okay, I got it marked out. Have some wood underneath to help reinforce it because the metal's real flimsy. Okay. So now we got a nice hole. Putting a square through a round hole. And okay, fits perfectly. So now I have to mark out for our ignition. Yeah, maybe not. Okay. All right, so we got our holes. Okay, so this is what you get in the box. I've learned something from watching YouTube videos. I'm sure you have too if you're researching this at all. So it comes with some Teflon tape. You do not use the Teflon tape on these flared fittings, and the reason is because the fitting itself is what seals. This angle is what makes the seal. Now, this is a different story. When you're threading threads to threads, that's when you use the Teflon, because the actual thread creates the seal. Whereas something like this, the taper is what creates the seal. One of these goes to the propane. That would be this one. And then this end goes to your burner table. Now this came with a mixer. That's what these holes are. And that mixes the gas with oxygen to create a much better flame and helps it burn a little cleaner. Also, there, with this kind of hose, you don't have to worry about a whistling sound. Some of them have like a flexible ribbed hose, and if you have that style, you may run into some whistling when your fireplace is running. Turn this one up, and when you're done hooking up all your fittings, you can plug your put your gas line in, and just get some soapy water in a spray bottle and just spray the fittings as you turn the gas on, and that'll let you know if you have any leaks. If you see any bubbles, you got a leak, so you're gonna have to undo it and redo it. Okay, so that's what that looks like, and that's where our valve's gonna go. You have this finished piece with threads on it, and the threads, it threads like this, unless you're not using Teflon or anything because you're not sealing anything. And that's what's gonna be exposed on the outside, and this is all on the inside here, so. Get a better look there. I guess that's about as tight as it's gonna get. You probably can't see it, but there's a hole right underneath here. It's probably this screw here. It goes up underneath. That seems to be the right one. See that in there? You see the screw underneath? So that's what it looks like so far. Come around, and then on the outside, that's what that looks like. So it's pretty clean. It's gonna look pretty clean on the outside. We have our knob. And then there you go. Controls are all set. And now it's time to work on the top. Okay, so after scouring the internet, watching video after video, I think I found a good way to cut this aluminum edging. Some people recommended a hacksaw. You saw what the results were with that. The grinder, same thing, it was kind of mushed over. And then I came across this one guy that said to use a aluminum blade in your chop saw. Well, I went to go order an aluminum blade and it was going to take a couple months to get here, and I don't have that kind of time. So I found this other guy that just said the metal blade is, you know, it's optional. It doesn't really make that big a difference. We're going to put that to the test. Now, I was told that this is very dangerous. You know, the metal can come flying out at you, whatever. Just make sure you have safety glasses. Some people recommended a face shield. You know, do this at your own risk, but supposedly this is going to give us the cleanest cut. Okay, so I have a piece of 1/4 inch wood. Just push up in there so that way it's a nice solid hold. We're just going to go nice and slow and hopefully this cut's good. This is exactly what I wanted to do. What people were complaining about was when they break through this real thin spot, I've seen the pieces go flying. So that's all I want to do. Do you see this? Look how clean that edge is. No burrs or anything. It's perfect. So yeah, that's the best way to cut this stuff. So there's the cut. No burrs, nice and straight. It's exactly what you want. The cement board is cut at 2 inches. I cut my tiles at 2 1/4 because I want them to overhang down below 1/4 of an inch. So what I did was I found some old molding I had laying around and some other scrap pieces of wood, and I put a piece of 1/4 inch plywood that I use as like a shim. That's why there's a gap here. This way, when I put that on there, it's going to come right to where it has to be, to the top, and I won't have to hold it or tape it. I can just mortar these on and let them rest here, and then I can continue working on the table and not have to wait for it to dry. So I'm just using these corner pieces as an example. So what's going to happen is I'm going to have something like that. So that's going to be what it's going to look like when it's all finished. So the tiles that we chose are 2 foot by 1 foot. The problem is when you go to cut them on your tile saw, if you don't have the tile supported fully, they have a tendency to break, and it's really frustrating to get a good cut. So for the edges around the table, instead of using a big long full piece, which would be ideal, I decided to turn the tile this way to cut it, and we're just going to use smaller pieces. It's still going to look fantastic. So I'm going to finish cutting up these edge pieces, and then you still want to wind up with a sliver at the end. That's all. That's why you lay it out ahead of time. So I'm going to cut it like right here to start off with a pretty good sized piece. And we'll start that there, and that'll push everything down, and then we'll trim up the other side. Okay, so we got the edge on all the way around. So I'm just kind of laying these tiles out just to get an idea how everything's going to line up. I've already decided that the tiles are going to lay this way, the long way this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find the center line, and then put a tile on each side of either side of the center line, and then I'm going to have to cut these outside tiles all the way. It's going to kind of be a pain to cut these long tiles, but that's the only way it's going to look best. So I got my tile laid out. I had to cut the outside pieces, about 10 and 5/8. It's a good idea just to lay things out so you don't want to seam right where this fire insert goes. Okay, we got all the edge pieces cut. I'm going to go mix up some mortar, start in that corner, put a skim coat on, put the edge down, and then I'm just going to start tiling. Well, I'm not exactly sure when the camera died, but it did make it to the end of me tiling. Took a lot longer than I thought. I was short 1 tile. It's a heartbreaker because I really wanted to get it done tonight so I could grout it tomorrow. So it looks like... All right, so we had some rain roll through here last night, so I decided to tarp our fire table project. Once the grout's in and you seal the tile, you don't have to worry about it. We're gonna untarp this and get our grout on. We're gonna let it cure and then we'll seal the whole thing. So this is the grout we're gonna be using. Non-sanded grout. It's for joints up to 1/8 of an inch. It's about what our joints are. It's this color, matches the tile pretty well. You just need a little bit of this, mix it up with some water, and then use a grout float pushing in all the cracks. Make sure you have a bucket of clean water and a sponge to get rid of any excess, and you know, wipe it away. All right, I'm gonna let that set up for about 10-15 minutes, and then I'm gonna come back, wipe the whole thing down with my sponge. All right, so about a half hour went by. You can see the film that's on here. So what I'm gonna do is just take a damp sponge and we're just gonna wipe it down. All right, so we're gonna let that haze over again. We're gonna change our water out, come back with clean water for the next time, and just keep repeating the process until your tile is completely clean and shiny again. And then we'll wait 24 hours and seal it. Okay, so I went through and I scrubbed off the top, and then I took a leaf blower and just blew off all the extra dust just to make sure there's nothing. Now I'm going to seal it with this impregnator sealer, and I use this up in the shower in the house. It works great. I'm not sure how well it's going to hold up outside, but you know, it's better than nothing. So we're going to put this and should seal up the grout. You might want to do a little spot check maybe on the side here or something before you actually, you know, commit to it. Okay, so these are all the fittings. They're gonna go to your fire table burner. This is the mixer. And like I mentioned before, the tapered fittings do not get tape put on them, the Teflon tape, but these pipe fittings, any fitting like this does. You gotta take it all apart, tape them up, and then get them real tight. We're gonna go ahead and do that. It always helps to grunt when you tighten things. I just found that to be a helpful tip. Gotta keep it light, people. If you look, you can see the arrow on there. It shows which way the gas is supposed to flow through the line. So this is coming from our propane, and then it hits our control valve, and then it comes out of this, and it's going this way. So that's the direction of flow. Now with a pipe thread, it's not gonna be like a positive stop. It's just gonna get tighter and tighter. Put this cardboard down so we don't scratch our table. We got all our connections hooked up. So there's our ignition. And these just plug right in here. All right, I don't think it matters what side's what, and then we'll just add our battery and away we go. There's a closer look at all the connections. We're gonna hook up our propane and spray it with some soapy water and see if there's any bubbles, make sure there's no leaks. All right, so I have the propane on right now, and I don't see any bubbles coming up from any of my fittings. It's soapy water. We'll shut it back off. Now remember, propane settles, so give it a minute to clear out before you light any matches or anything like that. So there's our burner in the table. Propane is all hooked up underneath. Okay, so before we go ahead and add our fire glass, we're going to give this a test. Okay, so everything's working properly. I'm going to shut it down and add the fire glass. And according to the calculations on every website I've gone to, I need 20 pounds of fire glass to fill this burner. So I ordered this Gas Pro 20 pound fire glass. It's reflective Caribbean blue. So let's take a look and see what it looks like here. Okay, you're supposed to have just enough glass. Cover your burner. That's gonna look great once we put the glass around it so that it stops the wind at night. It's just gonna set the night off. Now we added all the accessories that we could. The windshield, protective cover, and seating for 6. Plenty of space for friends and family. So I hope you enjoyed this fire table build. One more thing you can incorporate into your backyard. This is great for cool summer nights, friends, and a nice cold beverage. As you can see by the smile on my face, this was an extremely fun project. I recommend you try it. Thanks for watching. If you like projects like this, don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, enjoy your backyard water garden.